Hello, my name is John Revolinsky, and I'm proud to be here today with two of Fairfield's greatest institutions. We have on my left here Mr. Lee Gobble, and on my right, Dr. William Bauman. And we are here today to talk about the Great American Smokeout, which takes place on November 18th, and to discuss in general some of the issues about tobacco use, the benefits of quitting smoking, and just some of the news that's going on in the area in the front of our kind of quest to get the word out about tobacco and keep people from using it. So I'd like to start off by just first of all thanking you both for coming. Just to digress for a moment, Mr. Gobble, Lee, thank you very much for all your good work on our steeple. On behalf of everybody who loves our city, I just want to tell you that I think it's a great achievement, and I'm really just very tickled by it, and it's going to be something I'm going to think of you whenever I look at that from now on. So,
well, thank you. That's kind. There were many people involved, and it was the easiest thing I've ever been involved in, and that accomplishment feels good today.
Well, it's a wonderful project, and I think it definitely adds to our city. Well, I'd like to start out here maybe by focusing some more questions about tobacco to Dr. Bauman. Now, Dr. Bauman, I think most of the people in the city of Fairfield knows who you are. Of course, you've been a practicing physician in Fairfield you practiced about 30 years or so, is that
31. I came here in 1965 and retired 2 years ago.
So I think you've been involved with the health of Fairfield for quite a long time. I know you were considered the city physician. You took care of some of the medical health matters for the city itself. We were very happy to see your interest in tobacco prevention, and I understand this is something that you've been interested in for quite a long time.
Certainly that's true. The statistics are that through the time that I was practicing medicine, if someone, say age 35 to 40, was coming in for an annual physical examination, there wasn't at that time, and there still isn't, any one thing that we could do that would be more beneficial to the patient than convincing them to stop smoking. It's better than checking blood pressure, it's better than knowing what your cholesterol is. It's just one of the saddest situations as far as what effect cigarette smoking has on your health.
I heard it said that smoking cigarettes is the single most preventable cause of death.
Oh, there's no question about it. I would tell my patients that if they started smoking one package of cigarettes per day at age 18 and smoked until they died, they would on average decrease their life expectancy by 5 years. That's a high penalty to pay for a small pleasure.
You know, we find a lot of people, they know about the hazards of smoking. They understand that ultimately, the odds are that, you're going to get some disease from it. It's going to affect your lungs. It's going to affect your heart. I understand the research now is showing that it affects almost every system in the body, that even people with diabetes are affected with it, people with, all sorts of problems that the smoking influences.
Yeah, the effect of nicotine is it's a vasoconstrictor. So any place where you have blood vessels, there's going to be an influence. And the nicotine makes the blood vessels close down. They have done studies where they have measured the blood flow through the placenta from the mother to her baby before the baby is born, and they can prove that there's a decreased blood supply for up to 45 minutes after smoking one cigarette. So any place you have blood vessels, you're going to be influenced by smoking. Very sad.
Were you quite an advocate when, I know you're retired now, but when you were seeing your patients, if you knew a patient smoked, did you say something about it?
Yes, yes, very definitely yes. And occasionally it would backfire. I have had instances where with my good intentions I have made patients angry. You have to be ready to accept the message, and if something else is going on in your life and you're not ready to really handle that, you really don't want to hear it. And rarely I have had that response. The average patient, however, I think is very receptive to that information, and I think we're flabbergasted when you put it in the perspective of 5 years. You know, I asked them, are you willing to sign a contract that would automatically lessen your life by 5 years? I never had anyone who said, yes, I have so much pleasure in smoking that I've considered it and I'm ready to sign that contract. Unfortunately, I think the average response is that your doctor is sincere and the facts that he's giving you are accurate, but somehow you're going to be the exception to the rule. It's like throwing the dice in a casino. Unfortunately, I have literally seen hundreds of people who have been harmed by cigarette smoking and didn't beat the odds.
Sometimes being involved with helping people quit smoking, sometimes I feel it kind of takes people to feel the hand of God on them in order to quit smoking. I mean, it is a very serious addiction. They say it's one of the most addictive things to human beings is the nicotine, and you have to really deeply go for it in order to give it up. And sometimes I feel that, as I said, you need to feel like God's just pushing you in that direction in order to really quit smoking. I know. Anyway, sometimes I think that just the advice from the doctor itself often is taken as that by people. Did you find that sometimes you would just mention it to someone and they come back and say, Doc, you really influenced me and I have quit?
Yes, I have had patients who have made that statement. But as you say, fear is a great motivation, and fear is a serious problem. We would like to avoid it.
Don't you think that if we have any overeating or smoking or any habit, we're not quite old enough yet, we can postpone this a while and enjoy it, and then at no set date we're going to start reforming ourselves.
Yeah, we have to set the date. One of the interesting statistics is that if a person who starts smoking, say as a teenager, if they are able to stop smoking by the time they're 35%, by the time they're 35 years of age, they will decrease their health-related smoking problems by 90%. So that's a great encouragement. The other problem, or the other fact that should encourage people, is that no matter what their age, we can measure benefits once they stop smoking. For instance, a person who stopped smoking a year ago would have decreased their risk of a heart attack by 50% versus someone who continued to smoke. The problem, unfortunately, with lung cancer takes a lot longer. A person who stopped smoking 10 years ago has been able to decrease his risk of lung cancer by 50%. But the lung cancer effect is a longer effect, and it takes longer to get the benefits. But the heart responds very rapidly.
When I see some girl or lady that I know a little bit, I say to them, and she's smoking, I say, you sure are cute or pretty. Do you want to stay that way? And it seems to kind of shock them. And of course they do, and you can sort of see the wheels starting to turn.
Well, that's a good point. They say that smoking really does influence wrinkles and all that. And this is something I was thinking of just as you were saying about, down the road you're going to have all these problems, heart disease and lung problems. But people don't pay attention to that. What they pay attention on is how they feel today. But what's so interesting to me is, if you're going to have wrinkles today, then that's an immediate effect. But, when you look at the day-to-day kind of just feeling of someone who smokes cigarettes, and I have to confess, way back when I was in college, I partook myself, and so that's why when I teach this course, I speak from a little bit of personal experience, unfortunately. And I know, Lee, you had some experience back when you were a young man, too. We'll get to that in a minute. But one of the things that I find really almost shocking, and we talk about this to the young kids when we go in the classrooms. A person who smokes a pack of cigarettes a day takes into their lungs a quart of tar every year.
That is phenomenal.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Well, a quart of tar would just bowl you over dead if you had that in your lungs all at one time. And so what's happening, I mean, and kind of correct me if I'm wrong here, but my feeling is medically what's happening to that person is constantly their body is detoxifying themselves, is working extra to get rid of all that junk that they're putting in from the cigarette.
Oh, it's a foreign substance, and it is cancer producing.
To me, that's why, ultimately, it can't keep up, the body, and it gives out, But day to day, all that energy that a person would put into getting rid of all that tar that they're putting in their body constantly and all those other toxins, if they weren't putting them in, that energy can be used for something else.
Oh, sure.
For improving themselves, for just feeling better. I know I had a woman on our Freedom from Smoking class earlier this year, and she was saying, and I never thought she'd quit, actually. She was just such a hardcore smoker. But she was saying after she gave it up, and she was smoke-free for 2-3 weeks, and she said, I was sitting at home, and I experienced something I rarely do. She said, I just felt happy.
Isn't that nice? Well, as you're well aware, nicotine releases dopamine in the brain, and that's why it's so addicting. And that's the sad part of having young people start cigarette smoking. It is an addiction that, as you've previously said, is horribly difficult to stop. The only reason that people stop is out of fear. And the fear is death.
That's a prime reason, but it's not the only. I will say, there are many reasons that people quit smoking. That just self-respect. People know that
Sure.
they shouldn't do it. They want to do it for their family because they want to be a good example of their children. They don't want to spend the money. It costs almost $900, more than $900 if you smoke a pack of Marlboros a day every year. That's a lot of money.
Well, we were speaking about women's health. As a young doctor, I never thought I would see a time where there was a cancer that had a greater incidence than breast cancer in killing women. And of course, about 5 or 6 years ago, lung cancer passed breast cancer as the #1 killer in women. And I think that's terribly sad.
Lee, I want to ask you a little bit. I know that you've been involved with the American Cancer Society for a number of years, and you've been a great advocate of healthy lifestyle for quite a long time. How did you get into this role? How did that happen to you?
Well, I can only think back in teenage that it seemed to be the thing to do to smoke. But I'm looking back, the sharp people, even then of my age, they weren't smoking. So it's been a thing that if you didn't have enough willpower. And I was born into a home that very fortunate where the diet was good and neither of them had any habits, and also and then it was during World War II that I was in France, and I caught cold, and I'd always been sort of affected by science and things, and I realized smoking made it even worse. So I had a cold, and I didn't smoke for 2 days, and I said to myself, now you've got a real start, keep it going. And that's what happened. And the French people were dying for cigarettes, so I ought to tell a little story on myself. The Germans had printed a lot of money, and inflation was big. And it cost $100 a night to go out to the Charles-Brazier or whatever. And on $1 a day, that was a little hard to handle. So you would what's called the gray market would market your cigarettes and so on. So here I was helping myself and not somebody else probably.
So in other words, you had an added motivation to quit smoking because there was some financial gain to it?
Yes, I'm sorry to admit.
Oh, that's all right.
We can't offer that fringe benefit
No.
to the people in Fairfield,
Once
can we?
once in a lifetime.
But then since then, I mean, in recent years, you've been such an advocate for healthy lifestyle. You know, what's been your motivation?
It just doesn't seem to be any problem to deny oneself and I listen to a health program every morning, and it just keeps pumping you up to try a little harder, do this, do that, and so on.
Well, I know you're going to be 90 very soon, and I have to say you look great, and you're inspiration to us all, I think, to just take care of ourselves and just your alertness and your
You're a good advertisement
As I
for what should happen by stopping smoking early in life.
As I often say, get the stork to deliver you to the right place. My parents both lived into the 90s, so I owe a lot to heritage.
Genes are important.
Well, you know, I wanted to take this opportunity and just mention a little bit about the Freedom from Smoking clinic that we offer here in Fairfield. This is a 7-session program. It's an American Lung Association curriculum. It's been offered by the American Lung Association for the past 30 years. It's very tested and very effective. We've offered it here in Fairfield for the past 3 years, and there's been over 120 people that have gone through the program. In the past year itself, we've had 30 people, and we are offering a program again starting in the beginning of the year. We have January 13th is our start day of the clinic. That's a Thursday. We're going to be meeting at 7:30 p.m. at the Jefferson County Hospital. The meeting is free and open to the public. The program itself, actually, there's no charge for it. It's just something for the benefit of the community. The hospital is sponsoring it, allowing us to use their facilities and giving us quite a lot of publicity about it as well. And it should be a great program. There is a minimal charge for a workbook that goes with the course, but we encourage everybody who's interested, who's thinking about they might like to quit. I know a lot of people try quitting and don't always make it the first time. Dr. Bauman, you were saying it takes people quite a few times.
I read a study once that said the average person who was successful had tried 7 times before they got the job done. Now, obviously, that means there are some people that are successful the first time around. By the same token, it might take 10 or 12 times for other people who could hopefully still accomplish the goal that they wanted. So yes, I think we have to encourage people to work on decreasing or eliminating the habit for their own good and for the good of their families.
Well, John, this is a great opportunity for anyone, just their curiosity to go find out what it's about.
Right. There's no obligation for coming to the first session. There's also a 800 number, a toll-free number that's available here in Iowa. It's called the Quitline. And if people would rather not be public about their addiction to nicotine and deal with it in a more private way, you are able to call this number. The number is 866-YOU-CAN-TRY. The letter U, can try. I'm not sure what the numbers are on that, but if you look it up on your little dial, you can dial that, and that's a toll-free line. They answer it up in Iowa City. They have service even in Spanish, and they can help people. But this Freedom from Smoking clinic, what we find is by having the group support very often, it really makes a difference for people.
Oh, I would think it would. And the thing that people need to know is there are medications that will help them stop smoking. When I was early in my practice, the nicotine gum and the nicotine patches weren't available. There's a drug called Zyban out now that a fair number of people have been very successful with. So there are things aside from education and willpower to help people stop smoking.
And we educate people about those, aids to quit smoking. We have little discount coupons for those, some of those aids if people want them in our Freedom from Smoking class. In the past, we've organized for medical consultations with physician's assistants so they could get a prescription for Zyban if that was appropriate. And so all these things do help people. But, I often say to people, when you watch these ads on TV for some kind of herb or this or that that's going to help you quit smoking, you get the feeling that you're going to just sit back on your couch. You have this problem with nicotine, with tobacco, and you're going to just take this little pill, and now your problem's gone.
And it will make you stop smoking. That isn't the case.
It is not the case.
It will help, but it will not make you do anything.
It's something that people struggle with, and even with those aids, you need kind of some direction, you need some help.
And the group therapy, the business of, well, Susie got the job done, I'm just as good as Susie. If I'm not better, by gosh, I'm going to do it to prove to her and everybody in the world that I'm as good as she is.
Well, the benefits.
Or Jim or Joe. It's not a sexist thing either.
Right.
The benefits, you don't have as many colds, breathe easier, the food tastes better, you got more get up and go. And John, we sure have a lot to owe to you for the time that you've devoted to this program.
Thank you, Lee. It's a pleasure. I lost my dad a couple years ago to lung cancer, and just being on the city council when the Tobacco-Free Coalition had just started in Fairfield in Jefferson County, and they asked for a representative from the council, and I said, I'm going to do that. And then I just got involved, and it turns out I'm kind of a militant anti-smoker, so I just kind of naturally ran with it, but it feels really good. It's something that it's a wonderful way to kind of help people, and I really enjoy the work. So
at the football game in Iowa City Saturday, you stop and think 70-some thousand, and smoking isn't permitted.
Right.
And everybody conforms to that.
One of the things that we're doing for the Great American Smokeout, which is November 18th, and I'm hoping we're going to play this on that day at least, and maybe other days as well, we have organized what we call the Fairfield, Iowa Smoke-Free Restaurant Guide, and this little guide will be distributed throughout the city in different places, and it lists 28 restaurants in Fairfield where smoking is not allowed, and there's a few facts about secondhand smoke on here as well. I'm really proud of the fact that we have such a high proportion of restaurants in Fairfield that are smoke-free. Now, in addition, on the Great American Smokeout Day, November 18th, if anyone's going out to any other restaurants where smoking ordinarily is allowed, several of them will not allow smoking that day as well. Already we have commitments from Pizza Hut and George's Pizza on the square that on that day. It'll be for in honor of the Great American Smokeout.
That's good.
We'll have little tents on the ashtrays that ask people not to smoke that day. So we ask people, maybe you're not ready to give it up for good. Maybe you are. Then go ahead and give it a start now. But even if you're not, the suggestion is take this day. It's a day of people all over the country are using to get inspired to at least stay away from cigarettes at one day. So that's our inspiration for the Great American Smokeout. These smoke-free restaurant guides will be available all over the city, and we're going to be approaching the Convention and Visitors Bureau to kind of print them up in full color, and we're going to have some facts about Fairfield on there as well. So we'll have a little nicer brochure maybe in the next year, hopefully, if that all works out. But, well, I want to thank you both, gentlemen, for joining me today in this discussion about tobacco use.
It's great to be part of it. Thank you.
It's a pleasure.
And good. Well, I thank everybody for joining us tonight or today, whenever this is being aired, and hope to see people at our Freedom from Smoking class in January, and that's January 13th, 7:30 p.m. at Jefferson County Hospital. There is information available on the program through the Public Health Office, and that's 472-5929. And also we have a website where we talk about the different activities we're doing here, not only with tobacco cessation programs, but also prevention programs for the youth. And that our website is chokesmokes.org. And we have our restaurant guide listed on there as well. The kids came up with that name.
It's a good one.
So www.chokesmokes.org. So check it out. Thank you very much.